Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all doing well and good. We are here for the second class of Sudraka for Mritchakathika. And in the last class, I had talked to you about what is Indian classical drama, what is Sanskrit drama, what are the features of Sanskrit drama, and what are the good things, what are the bad things, how it evolved, and what are the differences between Indian classical and, well, differences and similarities between Indian classical and European classical drama. So today we are going to move further on and we are going to focus on the play. I am going to touch upon some of the key factors that are in the play. Then I will give you a summary of what happens in the play. And then we will end with, if we still have enough time, we will end with a discussion as to what is the significance of the title. So Mritchakathika, as you all know, that it means the little clay cart. And we will talk about why this title is important, what is the significance of it. And then in the last class, we will discuss some of the important themes in the play. We will also touch upon some of the themes today when we are when I'm explaining you what the plot is, and after that we will be focusing on just understanding what this play is really about. We will do an overview of it. Okay, so so for now, let's start. If you can see my PPT, I think you can see it, but just type in the chat that you can see it. Again, for everyone who do not know which book you need to buy, it is this book. You can see the picture. And this is available on Amazon. I think it's for around 200 rupees. You can order it. And this is a very good book. This is all you need. It has the play. It has an introduction to the play, so you will get an idea what the play is really about if you want to read it. And then it also has some critical essays, which is important for you to analyze the play. Of course, we will touch upon all these aspects, in the class as well. But it's good that you have the book and you do some of the self-reading yourself. Okay. So let me know if you guys can see the PPT. I'm just going to check the chat. Yes, okay, you can all see it. That's great. I can see that people are saying the PPT is visible. Thank you for everybody who replied, and thank you for joining the class again today. Okay, so as I said, this is the book. This is how the cover of the book looks like, available on Amazon. Now, let's start with talking about what are the key points in the play, all right? So I already mentioned that Mritchakathika is supposed to be the oldest Sanskrit drama. It is not necessarily true that this is actually the oldest Sanskrit drama. Ho sakta hai ki there are other Sanskrit dramas, but we have not discovered them. We have not found them because these are like thousands of years old, right? So if it says 5th century AD, this means more than 2000 years old, right? So ho sakta hai ki iske pehle bhi dramas the. They could have been old dramas which were not documented, not written, or we have simply not been able to discover them. All right. So now I already told you that there are two types of plays, and this not Sudraka, sorry, Mritchakathika is a type of a prakarna play. This type of play is also called the drama of invention. Okay, the drama of invention just literally means that, something, we invent a story, we invent something. And now you would say that, ma'am, but all the stories are invented. But remember that the prakarna play is the other option of the other type of play, which is the heroic play, right? The heroic drama. And heroic dramas are not essentially dramas of invention, because the story of heroic dramas are taken from either history or mythology. So, for example, a heroic drama, even in today's context, would be, let's say, when you go and see Ram Leela. So Ram Leela is a heroic drama because we already know the story. It's a story which comes from the Hindu or Indian mythology, right? So in a drama of invention, basically the entire story is invented. So we are not taking the story from a historical event. We're not taking the story from a religious book, okay, or from mythology. So that's why prakarna is also called the drama of invention. What is really curious is that prakarna were not really like in today's world, in contemporary world. Prakarna theaters are a lot like Prakarna plays are a lot more popular. Okay, so we have we have stories about everyday life, about everyday people. So that these have become a lot more common. So we don't have that many heroic drama anymore. But the time when this play was written, heroic drama was very, very popular. So when I say it was subordinated, it means that heroic drama was popular during that time. So let's say a play about Mahabharata or a play about Ramayana would be much more popular, and a lot of people would want to go and see it than something which is a Prakarna play. All right. Now, and guys, before I proceed, I want to let you know again that the chat option is open. You can ask me questions, and just again, a very important point is that you all need to ask me questions regarding the play. Please do not ask me questions about what will be there in the exam. Please do not ask me questions about WhatsApp. Okay, please do not ask me questions about recordings and things like that. All of these get recorded. They will be uploaded by somebody from Saul, not me. So I don't know when they will do it, but they will. And another thing, for the last for the Mahabharata PPTs, I have shared them with Vidushi and I think Kirti. I have not heard back from Kirti, but I have shared it with Vidushi, and Vidushi has them. So it is important that and I think she has already shared it with your WhatsApp group. So just check with her if you haven't, and if you haven't got it, I will ask Vidushi again if she has shared it or not, but she has the PPTs, okay? And another thing would be that, so when you ask questions, make sure that they're relevant to the play and what is being taught, okay? Because yesterday there were a lot of questions, and there were a lot of play-related questions, and I could not read all of them because there were a lot of, irrelevant questions. So it's very difficult to browse through. Like I had nearly 400, 500 comments yesterday in my Q&A. And any question or any comment which is relevant, which I think is a good comment, I will publish it. So everybody can see it then, because when somebody sends me a question, not all of you cannot see it, but only I can. So if it's a good comment, I will publish it. And then you can, make a note of it. All right. So now, as I was saying, the Prakarna plays a drama of invention because the entire story is invented by the author. It is not taken from history or mythology. Okay. Now, the main characters in a Prakarna play are city dwellers. City dwellers, as in like they are people like you and me. We are city dwellers. We live in Delhi. We are everyday life people. We're normal, everyday life people, okay? And the story also revolves around something which is about the everyday life, like, let's say somebody kisi ghar pe chori ho gayi, something like that, okay? So it is about everyday life. It is about people, common people, and it is about everyday, very, sort of like daily issues. Okay, so it is nothing. So it would not be a play like Ramayana, where somebody is going and we are fighting a war and things like that, and there are like thousands of people, characters, and things like that. Okay, so it is something which is. And then you would think that, ma'am, but why do you want to hear about everyday? Like, it is more interesting to hear about heroes, and it is more interesting to hear about mythology. Why should we why should we hear or read a play or watch a play about everyday life? Because we either live everyday life. Now, so what is the fun? The idea here is that when you watch a play about people like you, you can relate to it. So it's very relatable. It reflects how human society is. It reflects how humans think, how humans behave. So Prakarna plays are important because they give a reflection of the truth. They give a reflection of what really reality is. Okay, so as I already mentioned, the play is apparently written. There was a play by Bhasa, and Bhasa is supposed to be the oldest Indian classical playwright. Okay, and he was older than even Kalidasa that you're already studying. I think you finished Kalidasa yesterday, from what I understand. And the play is and Bhasa, he wrote a play called Charudattam or Charudatta in our languages, and it was incomplete, so he didn't finish it. So the idea of Mirchakatika is that it takes the first 4 acts in Mirchakatika are simply the copy of what Bhasa wrote in Charudattam, and because Bhasa did not finish it, or at least we don't have the full manuscript of the play, so we are assuming that it was unfinished. So the person who wrote Mirchakatika, he decided he will finish the play, like he will give its own ending. And of course he doesn't know what Bhasa wanted to do with the play, so he of course invented the rest of the play, right? It was his imagination for the rest of the play. Okay, and this is one of the reasons why the name is called Sudraka, which means little servant, and here it means that it's the little servant of Bhasa. So remember yesterday we spoke at length about who is the writer, and the thing is that we don't really know. We don't know who actually this writer is, because the name Sudraka, it literally means the little servant, and literary critiques or academics have claimed that this is probably a person who's not using his real name, and he's using a pen name, saying that because he's finishing a story written by Bhasa, he is calling himself the little servant of Bhasa, who's completing the play. All right. And another reason why we don't think that Sudraka is a real name is because when we try to find any historical document about it, in history, there is no person called Sudraka. And the only time we find somebody called Sudraka is in a play or in a collection of fictional stories in Katha Saritra Sagara, right? So they're not, so we are pretty sure that this is not the real name of the person, okay? Now, what does this play do? So it is effectively a romantic play, okay? It is a play about love between the hero and heroine. However, it is not just a play about romance. It also touches upon a lot of political issues, it touches upon political issues, it touches upon social issues, it touches upon the caste system. And we will touch upon all of this, okay? It also, criticizes the caste system in a way. And the play is actually what we call a social satire, all right? And if you can see the little note below the PPT, a satire is basically a genre. Now, I hope that you understand what a genre means. A genre means किस type का play है, किस type का story है, right? So, like, what type of a play is it? So it's a satire. That's what it is. The play is a satire, which means that it will show the weaknesses and the follies and जो हम में जो कमियां हैं, जो human beings में जो कमियां होती हैं characters में, like what are the human weaknesses. Like some people are greedy, some people are jealous, so we will show these human weaknesses, and we make fun of them, we ridicule them, and we do this so that it's done like the weaknesses are shown in the play and they are made fun of, or they are projected in a funny manner, so that it sort of pushes us, so that the idea is to push us for self-improvement, to get over, to get rid of those weaknesses in ourselves. Okay, so that is the purpose of a satire, right? Now, it is a very dynamic, it's a very dramatically powerful plot. So what this means is that the story is very fast moving. There are a lot of things happening, and it is not slow at all. So it's a very fast paced, very interesting story. And even though it's a romantic play, it also has tragic elements. By tragic elements, I mean that there are sad things or bad things happening. And of course, there are comical, it also has comic, it has also funny things, and it also has farcical elements. Now, this is the word, farcical elements. I'm looking at the second last point in the PPT, and farcical element basically means it is it's a comic dramatic work. And so even under comedy, there are different types of comedy, and a farce is basically that there would be a lot of jokes and a lot of like in your face jokes. Like, it would not be very subtle, like it would be a little bit the Hindi word would be it's going to be a little bit chichora. Okay, so it's going to be it's a bit of a chichora play, and the characters are very crude. Like what I mean by crude is that they're not very refined. So like how Shakuntala is a very elite, a very refined character. So crude characters, matlab there would be like gamblers, there would be thieves, and it's going to be very chichora. It's going to be funny, and there would be a lot of situations which would be just absurd. You would think that ye kaise ho gaya? अजीब चीज हो रही है, right? So something like that. All right. So for example, if you want to have a comparison from Bollywood, so something like Golmaal would be a good example. Okay. Now this play was actually made into a movie. In fact, this play has been translated and been performed for years and years and years. And of course, when they translate it and when they do it, like there's a lot of differences and stuff. But it was so the best example I could give you, and if you want to watch it, there was a movie called Utsav, and it was directed by Girish Karnad. He's also a theater director, so it's it's a very good movie. I think you can find it on YouTube if you're curious to watch it, if you're interested. But keep in mind that when something gets adapted to Hindi cinema, or when something gets like an adaptation from a play to a movie, doesn't necessarily always have to be that जो कुछ भी उस play में है वही हो रहा है movie में. They do make some changes. So I would still urge you. So you have to read the book, because if you watch the movie and if you answer the questions based on what you see in the movie, you might be getting some things wrong, because of course movie में some things get changed, right? All right. So key points. Continuing on the key points. Now the title, The Little Clay Cart, is something very important. Okay. And why is the title so important? Because, and I will elaborate on the title even more at the end of this session, and we will end on it, because what I want to do is I want to start. So far, I've just given you descriptions and I've explained you things. And as you already know, that how literature works is that you understand the text, you are described what is going on in the text, and then we also analyze it. So I will start with the analysis by introducing. I will talk about the title a little bit more in the end of the class today. However, for you to know, one of the first things you should just know is that the title, Little Clay Cart, it represents a departure from Sanskrit tradition. So, if you remember, yesterday I explained to you that Sanskrit tradition has a lot of strict rules. Remember, and when after Bharat Muni wrote the Natya Shastra, he listed a lot of rules, that this is how a play should be, this is how it should be done, and so on and so forth, right? So in this case, when you it's a departure from Sanskrit tradition. And when you think, why is it a departure? Because usually when you have a play, when you have a prakarna play which has a hero and a heroine, and which is the central, if the central theme is a love story, then you will have the title of the play would be named after the hero and the heroine, and it would be like a combination of both their names. And you would think that, and many of you who follow movies or whatever, like you follow Bollywood or Hollywood, so I'm sure many of you know that how जो famous couples होते हैं ना, उनके नाम को combine कर देते हैं. So Virat Kohli and Anushka would be Vrushka or something like that. And in Hollywood, there's Brad Pitt and Angelina, so they're called Brad Angelina, something like that. So उनके दोनों के नाम को combine कर देते हैं. It's a very common thing which happens these days. But here is something very interesting. ये संस्कृत play का एक tradition था कि अगर एक hero और एक heroine है, तो उनका जो टाइटल होगा उस स्टोरी का, उसका नाम कंबाइन कर देंगे हम लोग. ठीक है. तो जैसे कि फॉर एग्जांपल कालिदासा का एक प्ले है मालविका अग्निमित्रा. ओके. एंड दिस इज अ लव स्टोरी बिटवीन प्रिंसेस मालविका एंड किंग अग्निमित्रा, एंड देयर प्ले गेट्स एंड द नेम गेट्स कंबाइंड. ओके. नाउ यू कैन आस्क दैट, मैम बट शकुंतला के नाम पे what was his name? The name of the king, I'm forgetting it anyway. So Shakuntala, or the man, the king's name, why don't they combine? तो वहाँ पे वो combination नहीं हुआ है, क्योंकि keep in mind कि वो actually में it's not completely a love story, no? Because they get separated, like they fall in love, and then he gives her a ring, and then he completely forgets ki wo kaun hai. So it's not a typical love story. It's actually based on karuna ras, means like, you know, the ras of like the emotion of separation, the emotion of loss, the emotion of sadness, right? So actually viraras and karunaras. So virar means basically you are the emotion of being separated, okay, and karunaras, the emotion of being sad. So because it's not a typical love story, we do not have these key characters, like, so we do not have the two names not combined. But then something like Malvika Agnimitra is a very good example, and there are multiple other plays like that which are romantic plays, and the name of the hero and heroine are combined. But this is not the case with the Little Clay Cart, and so this is a clear departure from how Sanskrit tradition really works. And I will talk about this more towards the end, कि Sudraka ने क्यों किया. All right. Now Sudraka, in order to mock tradition, so this is not the only time where he sort of rejects the Sanskrit tradition of how plays should be written or how plays should be. He also he also talks about, so what he really does is, instead of naming the story about the two hero and hero, the hero and heroine, he names it after there's just one scene where Charudatta's son, he is playing with a toy cart, okay, and it's a small scene, and then he takes that scene and just titles the Little Clay Cart, like, you know, from that scene, like that becomes the title, and you wonder why is it so important that it becomes the title. And so just keep this question in mind, that why is it important, and we will come back to it. All right. Now the Little Clay Cart has a wide range of characters. Now this is quite common in prakarna plays, because of course, you know, you cannot have just a few characters, because after all, this is the play about everyday life, and everyday life में सिर्फ 2-3 characters नहीं होते. Even if there is a lead character, even if there are 2 lead characters, of course, what is happening with them is affected by how they live their lives, and how they respond to situations is of course affected by what other people are also doing, right? So it has a wide range of characters, because this is exactly how everyday life is. And the play also doesn't have a straight progression. So a lot of random things, यहाँ वहाँ ये हो रहा है, वो हो रहा है, यहाँ पे ऐसा हो गया, वैसा हो गया. So, and that is also again very representative of our everyday lives. Like in our lives, only one thing doesn't happen, huh? So you can say that, okay, you know, it's not that you get up in the morning and then you go to college and then you come back home and blah blah blah, and this you do for 3 years and then you graduate. No, a lot of things happen in the middle. You go to college, you make friends, you come back home, you help with your mother, you can have a fight with your brother, so on and so forth, right? So the idea is that people don't have a singular life. People's life are not decided by a by a singular aspect. It is not defined. It is not defined like that, right? And it is defined by it's defined by a lot of other trajectories. And another very important thing about this play is that even though the main love story is about Charudatta and this woman that he ends up meeting, that's not the only thing which is happening. There are a lot of other things which happen in the play, okay? Because this is really how life works. As I said, that आपकी लाइफ में सिर्फ एक चीज नहीं होती है. A lot of things happen, and you come in touch with so many people every day, and they have their own lives, and different things are happening in their lives. And this is just how real life is. It's an interconnected net. We are all interconnected, and all of us have different things going on in our lives. So this is what really the play is, and that's why it is a zigzag. It's sort of has a multiple tiny plots will come out when we are studying the play, when we are reading the play. This is because that's just how real life really works. Okay, now the play is divided essentially into 10 acts. So as I said yesterday, acts are so plays are divided into acts, meaning that they're sort of cut into bits, and these acts also have scenes under them. So there's the play, then there will be acts, and acts के अंदर scenes होते हैं. Okay, So just you don't have to get into the what scenes are, kya hai wo hai, but just remember the play is divided into 10 acts. And in this case, he sticks to the Sanskrit tradition, because from the Sanskrit tradition we know that plays range from 1 to 10 acts. Okay, so at least he is sticking to that. And why is it? When I was saying that it's a very zigzag, a very random kind of a plot, this is because the hero of the play, he doesn't come in 4 of the acts, which is very strange, because agar, like, if it's a, for example, in Kalidasa, you will see Shakuntala in all of the acts. You will see the king in all of the acts, right? But here the hero doesn't come in 3 acts, 4 acts. The heroine is not in 3 acts, and the villain जो है वो पहले act में आता है, उसके बाद सीधा जाके 8th act में आता है. So, and another interesting thing is that all of these acts you can also just sort of understand them as individual plays. So they're all very, very nicely written, and so jo act hai, they can also just work as an independent play. Of course, they're interconnected, but if you just read one act, it is a story in itself. Okay, now. Just now, something factual. The play was translated in English by somebody called author W. Ryder in 1905. So this was, of course, it has been translated many, many times before, but because we are in English honors, we're focusing on its English translation. And it was, and this is something which this is something we consider the first good translation, because uske pehle bhi ek translation hua tha. It was translated into as The Toy Cart, and it was done by somebody called Horace Hayman Wilson, and this was nearly like almost 85 years ago, before the Ryder version came on. It was in 1826. But the one which we are looking at is, or rather, like we're not reading the translation by Ryder. We're reading the translation by somebody else, by an Indian who has translated it. But just keep these 2 dates in mind. All right. Now moving on, we have now continuing with the key points of the play, and then I will jump on to the prologue, and then I will talk about the prologue at length. What we have here is that, unlike other classical plays in Sanskrit, because the play doesn't borrow from epic or mythology. So keep in mind that this is very different from Shakuntala, and this is the reason why we have 2 such different plays. So Shakuntala is basically a heroic play as opposed to a Prakarna play, which is this one. And why is Shakuntala a heroic play? Because the story of Shakuntala is actually a story where, do you know where it is? It is a story of, it is a part of Mahabharata. It is the actual Shakuntala story is in Mahabharata, and it is a different, and Kalidasa's version is not exactly the same. Okay, he has changed some things in it. However, and that's a whole different debate, how the Shakuntala in Mahabharata is a lot more feminist, is a lot more powerful than the very weak and a very crying Shakuntala in Kalidasa's version. But that's something for your other class to discuss it. Now, the idea is that the epic is very, so he is not borrowing from any of this. So because Kalidasa borrowed the story from Shakuntala, but he's not really doing that. It's not a story, and he is not borrowing the idea from anybody. And that's, again, why it is a Prakarna, because remember I told you that Prakarna is a drama of invention, because he's not borrowing from anything, he's inventing the story, therefore it is, therefore it is a drama of invention. So this is very different from the usual classical plays, which sort of take their inspiration from epics or mythology, and even religion, even religious texts, and even remember I told you that how drama evolved from the Rig Vedas. Like the first dramas were performed from the content of the first drama, like the very first drama that we know, or the earliest dramas were basically just enactments of what moral stories or whatever moral ideas we find in the Vedas, right? So keep that in mind. Now, another thing is that, again, unlike something like the heroic play, in heroic play, presumably, or logically, the hero of the play is somebody who's a royal, who's a king, at least, And for example, in in Shakuntala, it's a king. The hero is a king, right? Now here, what is happening is that the hero actually is actually a very poor person, like Charudatta, who is the hero of the play, is a very poor everyday man. All right, but something important. So when even though he's representing a person from the everyday life, what is significant is that Charudatta is actually somebody who is still a Brahmin. Keep this in mind that he's still a Brahmin. So even though he is representing so-called, people from the everyday life, he's still representing a part of the society which is at the top most of the hierarchy, right? Because the Brahmins are supposedly the most important people according to the caste, right? And so he's not representing, say, a Vaishya. He's not representing a Shudra. It's not a story about people who are, very, who are considered the lower caste. He's not showing that story. Even though, chalo, theek hai, उसने बोले हाँ मैं कॉमन मैन के बारे में लिख रहा हूँ, but common man who? Because common man में भी तो सारे differences होते हैं. Not all common man is the same, right? Not everybody is the same. So in this case, the story is still about a Brahmin. Yes, it's about a poor Brahmin. It's not about a rich king, but the story is still about a Brahmin. This is important. Okay, so keep this in mind that हाँ चलो ठीक है, मैं royalty नहीं दिखा रहा हूँ, मैं king नहीं दिखा रहा हूँ, मैं common man दिखा रहा हूँ, but आप कैसे what type of common man are you showing? The common man you're showing is ultimately a man who belongs to the highest caste. So he is showing a story about a Brahmin, right? So then the woman he falls in love with is a Vasanta Sena. Vasanta Sena is a courtesan. Now, what do you understand by the word courtesan? Do you know what the word means? I would be very curious to actually hear if you understand what the word courtesan means. So if you know what the meaning of the word is, type in the chat, and I'm going to see आप में से कितने लोगों को पता है before I explain what it is. Zafar has asked me a question. Ma'am, reading the play, I found that there are instances of poetic expression. Do we expose them as poetic interpretation? Yes, you can. That's a very good question. I will publish this so that others can also see it. Yeah, very good. He also gave an example, so I'll publish that too. Ma'am, can heroic drama be called drama of invention? No, they are different things. A heroic drama is not a drama of invention because the heroic drama takes the story from mythology and from epics and from religious texts, as I was saying. Do we also have to read the history of English literature? Not really, no. What does my lips are sealed means? Yes, lips are sealed means that she's going to be quiet. She's going to be silent, that she will not reveal a secret, okay? When I'm telling you to not ask me questions about WhatsApp groups, that's what you're asking. And this is very, very unfair to those people who genuinely are asking questions about the play. Yes, Dushyant. Thank you. The king's name in Shakuntala is Dushyant. Thank you, Kushi and others. Ma'am, but Saul students don't go to college. But yes, and you can't make friends. I know it's sad, but this is just how it is now. And you can always interact with your other friends. People online. So Tuba is asking, ma'am, if there was caste discrimination still, all the upper and lower caste people perform drama together, or is there some differences between them while playing the drama? So we don't actually know that जो actors जो हैं वो कौन से caste से आते हैं. We don't know this. So, and we can presume that given that given that Bharat Muni, who wrote Natya Shastra and has made all the instructions about how drama should be, there's a very good chance that the drama was performed and all the people in the drama were all actors from the higher caste. Okay, and also because there's this Sanskrit drama and only Sanskrit people, only higher caste people actually had access to learn and understand Sanskrit. Okay, so good question, Tuva. I'm going to publish this. We can say that the clay of cart like a metaphor of the world which Vasant Sena is a part of. Yes, absolutely. You can say this. Good question. Published. No, Mirchakatika is not a part of Mahabharata. Shakuntala, the story of Shakuntala is a part of Mahabharata. Court lady. Not exactly. Prostitute. This is Tapush Mittal. Yes, she is a prostitute. That's right. So the answer to what is a courtesan is that she is a prostitute. All right. So let's see. But there are more answers. There are more questions to it. So let's see. Sex worker. Yes, the same thing as prostitute. A person of law. No. A person who plays music. Yes. So this is also true because she's not just a prostitute. Courtesans are like, they are also, women who sing and dance and who are also prostitutes. So it's a little bit more than prostitutes. So this is also a correct answer, Rohit. So I will publish this. And I am assuming that you can all see the answers which I'm publishing. Member of royal court. No. Whore. Do not use that word. Priya Davar. That's not a word you use in exams or in, like, you will see the word whore come up in your plays or in English when you read a book, but those are fictional write-ups, and they can write whatever. But when you answer a question, you do not say a word like a whore. Okay, that's extremely impolite and disrespectful. Even Konika, formal statement maybe by the author. No. A kind of prostitute, yes, already done. Ma'am, Mircha Katika is a part of Mahabharata. No, it is Shakuntala is a part of Mahabharata. A member of the court in a kingdom. Ma'am, isn't courtesan someone who one has relationship but not necessarily is his wife? Yes, very good. That is also a very good definition of courtesan. It is also, another word for that is also called concubine. 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 Concubine basically means that it's like your illicit love affair, like you're married to somebody, but then you also have like a girlfriend, and this person is a concubine. So that also works. Okay. Courtesan means prostitutes. Prostitutes, ma'am, are character sketches asked? Sometimes, yes, you will get character sketches. Courtesan means something like sugar. No. Okay, people, you can stop answering because I can't keep reading all your responses, but I will read whatever I've gotten still far. Ma'am, what is the nobility of these characters in the play? As I just said, Abhi tak I have only talked about Chauradatha and I told you that he's a Brahmin. Ma'am, please. Kritika, why are you repeating the same question? I told you it's a part of Shakuntala. Chishika Jain, I'm sorry if I'm not getting your name right. Courtesan is a modern usage, is a euphemism meaning a sugar baby escort, concubine, mistress. Did you copy this from somewhere or did you write it yourself? Mistress or a prostitute for whom the art of dignified etiquette is the meaning of attracting wealthy and powerful clients. That is a good answer. And if you wrote it, I am very impressed that you wrote this. I will publish this so that your friends can also see it because it's a pretty complete definition of what a courtesan is. The poet mentioned that it's a story of a common man, but by giving the person a Brahmin caste, as knowing that caste discrimination was present at the time, is he disbalancing the two things? Yes, he is. So it is, even if it's a story about a common man, what type of common man? We're ultimately talking about a common man who's on the top hierarchy, who's like who's of the highest caste. So is it really that much? Is it really that common? So good question, Bhavna, even though it doesn't answer the question which I was saying, I will publish this. Who's the writer of Mahabharata? Ved Vyasa is the writer of Mahabharata. Somebody is asking. Ma'am, how can I add myself again? WhatsApp group. Yes, somebody is explaining why the title of the play is, the little play card, and I will touch upon this later. So I will just publish it for now. Thanks, Vivek, for the comment about the definition. Ma'am, in the older times, caste discrimination was a bigger evil, or gender discrimination means Sanskrit was taught to higher class women. We don't really know this. Sanskrit was taught to higher class women or not. It probably depended. It was probably dependent on the family if they wanted to teach their girls or not. So we don't know this, but I think caste discrimination and gender discrimination was just equally there. Like both the things were there. And it was not that one was more and the other was. It was just everywhere, and both of them were there. And it's also the case even now. Not a lot of things. Some things have changed, but the whole discrimination thing hasn't gone, right? So good question. Publishing it. So as you can see, I'm just publishing the points which have been raised, which make sense. What is the meaning of predominant? Predominant मतलब जो कोई चीज बहुत ही आपके एक focus में है कि it's something which is in your focus, like something which is important, something which is the primary focus of. ठीक है? One who can entertain the audience by the art of performance, or we can say that a performer. Yes, again, good answer. Published Anamika, thank you. Quotations means the Vaishyas. Vaishyas, you cannot use that word when you write your exam, Shivangi, but thank you. Considering a quotation as a prostitute, wouldn't it be impossible for such a character to use Sanskrit? Very good point. Yes, and she still speaks in Sanskrit, so again, what he is doing is basically he's moving away from the typical tradition of Sanskrit drama that a prostitute should not be speaking in Sanskrit, but Vasanta Sinha does speak in Sanskrit. So, good question, Sinajit. I'm just going to publish this. Your class is the best one. Thank you. Ma'am, this drama shows that there was no caste discrimination at this time. Actually, that's not true. You will see there is caste discrimination because the main hero is, after all, a Brahmin. It's not a Shudra or a Kshatriya. Okay. In Hindi, it means Navar Vadu. That's the meaning of quotation. Now, keep this in mind that when you give an explanation of a word in your exam or in your assignments, you cannot just give a translation of what it means in Hindi. You have to explain it in English. Okay, so even if it is Navar Karu, that's not the answer you should give in your exam. Ma'am, Natashatra, it's not a novel, it's a play. Come on, like a mistress. Yes, good answer. Bhavna, does their lifestyle was similar to the geishas? No, a geisha is a very Japanese way of. The geishas are also prostitutes, but their ways are very different from the Indian idea of what a courtesan is. Okay, so upper class clientele. She can be a dancer. What qualities does she in Roger? Ma'am, this is your own notes. What is a mundane world? A mundane world just means an everyday life. मतलब कि जो हर रोज का जो होता है everyday life. Okay, that's what a mundane world means. Ma'am, can we use the term tavaif to describe a quotation? No, you cannot use a word from a different language to explain a meaning of a word in English. You can say it, but then you need to explain it more in English. Like you have to use English words. Okay. Ma'am, I had a question. Ma'am, what is the meaning of prose? A prose is basically ऐसे हम लोग जैसे बात करते हैं ना कि हम लोग words में बात कर रहे हैं ना तो अगर जो मैं बोल रही हूँ, if you type it down, it becomes a paragraph. Right, so a prose is basically something that is really that is not a verse, which is not poem. Like the way I'm speaking is not rhyming, right? So that is what a prose means. Can prostitutes be of a higher caste? Usually, no. Yes, Prakarna is a play of invention. Okay, guys, I'm just going to click on this. I don't know what is the books that you're sending me in the image, Mahesh. That's not the right book. Sudraka is not a character. Sudraka is supposedly the person who wrote the book. So Sonam has a very good question, and after this I will stop and I will go back to the text because I need to continue reading. I need to continue teaching. So Sonam is asking, if she is a quotation, why the author writes so good things about her? Why not? Why do prostitute, like what is your idea of a prostitute? Do prostitutes don't deserve respect, and where is this judgment coming from? Like it's if you write something like prostitutes don't deserve respect because they're prostitutes, you are going to fail your exam. That is not how literature works, and in the larger scheme of things, that is not how we think about people. We do not judge them. She is not robbing somebody. She's not stealing anything. If she's selling her body for money, where is this moral judgment coming from? Is it better than stealing? Is it better than begging? What is it? So that's the whole point about this play, that you have to get that you have to get over the idea that why is Sudraka treating a prostitute with respect? If you think that they should not be treated with respect, then you need to start thinking differently. Okay. Is there caste discrimination at that time? Absolutely, there's caste discrimination at that time. And there's a very good chance that the playwright also belonged to the higher caste. Thanks, Rahul. I'm just going to publish your answer. Okay, guys, you need to stop sending messages because I cannot read all of them. And I want to go through all of them before I start continuing. So please do not send more. I will tell you the meaning of prologue. Don't worry, I will come to it. And I will talk about the prologue in length. Somebody is saying, what is the meaning of jorna? I don't know if I said jorna, but a satire basically means that it is a type of play जहाँ पे जो हमारी जो कमियां होती हैं ना, जो human beings में कमी होती है, काफी अब जैसे कि jealousy हो गया, greed हो गया, ठीक है? तो we will show these characters who are jealous and who are greedy and so on and so forth, and we will make fun of it. Like it will be shown in a very comical, in a very funny way, and we do this so that you can think about it, that how bad these things are, and then you try to be, and then you improve yourself, then you try to get over these weaknesses. That is the idea of what a satire means. Yes, so Zafar is saying that the etymology, he's suggesting that there is a reason why there's a word court in the word quotation, and why is that important. Okay, so we will come to this. Very good point. I'm going to publish that. If you send me anonymous comments, I will not reply to them. Just telling you, you have to send me your name. Ma'am, we can't judge a person by his or his work. Good. That's a very good point. I think I've read all the comments now. Please do not send more. Prostitution is the oldest profession. It has always been there throughout mankind. Absolutely. Publish. And at that time, they don't respect women. Absolutely. Even now, a lot of people don't respect women. Now, coming back to the key points. All right. So we are, as I just, so what is a courtesan? Now, this is important that you understand that she is not just a prostitute. The idea of prostitution could be, or what we understand is that she is not just a woman who goes to, who stands at the corner of the road and tries to get a client and then has sex with them and then takes money and leaves. A courtesan is something a lot more. A courtesan is actually somebody who knows how to sing, who knows how to dance. She's basically, in a way, an entertainer in the court of the king. So courtesans are basically somebody who are actually very, very refined. They know how to sing, they know how to dance, they have very good etiquettes, they're very polished. Okay, so they're not just somebody, so they're not only prostitutes. And yes, their clients are usually people from the higher caste. It's usually kings. They're usually kings and wealthy men, like nobles and things like that. And so a courtesan is someone who knows how to sing, who knows how to dance, who knows the etiquettes of the court. She would be very well dressed. She would be very well mannered. And at the same time, she has all these qualities, but her clients also pay her money for having sexual relations with them. So she is you can say that yes, she is technically a prostitute because she is giving, because she's having sex for money, but then she's also a lot more than that. She's also an entertainer and also a dancer. So a lot of people would go and watch a courtesan sing and dance, but they may not necessarily go and have sex with her, right? So this is the thing, it doesn't necessarily involve that. Not every time a courtesan has a client that is always involved that they will have sex. Another thing which is very important, and for a good reference for you guys, I don't know, I think you all are very young, but I don't know if you've heard of this movie called the Umrao Jaan. It was done by it was there was an old version. There's an old version which has Rekha in it, and interestingly, even Utsav has Rekha in it. The movie, which is based on Mrichakathika, and so Umrao Jaan is basically a courtesan, and that's what courtesan is. Like they're basically royal entertainers, and they also can have sexual relationships with their clients. All right. Now here is the thing. Now courtesans are like, even then they are not treated with respect, like they are. And and I'm not saying that they are treated as like filth. They're not like, if somebody sees a quotation, they're like, gee, it's not like that. Okay, so but there is a contempt, like during this time, like during the time Sudraka was writing, women were either wives, like you would either get married, okay, to a man, and your husband will take care of you, and you are basically a housewife, and you raise his kids and so on and so forth. And let's say you are not somebody's wife, okay, and you don't have any man to take care of you. And at that time, during the time Shudraka was writing, there was no such thing as being there was no profession for women. Like women did not have jobs. Like women were not, they could not just say, acha, I will be a soldier, I will be this. Like the only job, the only profession available, to human beings was effectively, it was actually only prostitution. So if you don't have money, if you don't have somebody to take care of, if you don't have a man to marry you, then you will end up being a prostitute. So a lot of prostitutes during the time Sudraka was writing, it was not like, how will you survive? Okay, so this is the thing. And she, however, is not a prostitute. Like, remember, she is a courtesan, so there's a difference in that. All right, now moving on. Now the idea of the nobility matlab ki aap kitne अच्छे हैं, like how honorable are you, how dignified are you. Okay, so usually जैसे heroic play में, the nobility of the characters, like their how they are as characters, is defined by their social standing. So remember, in when I was teaching you Mahabharata, I repeatedly told you that how the Pandavas follow their dharma, and their dharma is based on their position, their social position as Kshatriya princes. So they are Kshatriya prince, and they do what the Kshatriya princes are supposed to do. So basically their virtuous position, their honor, their courage, and all of that, they derive it because of it is shown that it is because they are Kshatriya prince, that's why they are like that. However, here the way we see the characters are made or portrayed, we see that जो आपकी social positioning है, meaning कि आप चाहे डॉक्टर हो, या फिर आप चाहे कोर्टिशियन हो, या फिर आप चाहे ब्राह्मण हो, those things do not define who you are. Like your social position do not define what kind of a character you are. It is your inner, it is your behavior, it is your thought, meaning that who you are, like as in like what kind of a person you are, is not defined by whether you're a Brahmin or a Kotashin. What kind of a person you are is basically just defined by आप कैसे behave करते हो, right? This is actually true, because even in today's society, you can say that not all doctors are the same, right? Not just because somebody is a doctor doesn't mean that they're a good person. Understood? And that's the whole point, that we assume that, oh, somebody who's a courtesan, we automatically think that's bad. But that's the thing, like, you can be a prostitute, you can be a courtesan, but at the same time, you can be a very nice, a very good, a very caring person. Okay, so that's the point. Like your what you do for a living, what is your social, what is your caste, does not mean automatically that you're a good person. Okay, now the play, where is this play set? तो जैसे कि मैंने last time बताया था that the play is set in the city of Ujjain, and this was during the reign of King Palak. Okay, or in English we would say Palaka. And this was the end of the Pradyota dynasty. And you can, these are just very basic key facts. You can just find them Googling, and you don't have to really remember them or mention them. I'm just putting it out to you, just reminding you. And it was written during the first quarter. First quarter matlab, the first 25 years of the 5th century BCE. Okay, now the prologue. Okay, the prologue. What is a prologue? And this is something which I also saw in your questions, that what is really a prologue. And by the way, people, I will not be what I'm going to do next is that I will just look at the comments after the end of the class, and if we are not able to finish and like, okay, there are so many more comments. It's impossible to read all of that. Okay, anyway, I'm going to go back to PPT. A prologue is basically is an opening. So जब एक play शुरू होता है, तो in many cases, now keep this in mind that prologue is not something compulsory. Okay, not all plays have prologue. So it is not something which absolutely 100% होगा. Okay, but this play has a prologue, and prologue is basically an introduction to the play. So in the introduction में क्या होगा, the सूत्रधार होगा, and I'm not going to explain you what a सूत्रधार is again. He will come on the stage and he will say, तो आज हम इस नाटक में देवी और सज्जनों, तो आज हम इस नाटक में ये देखने वाले हैं. Okay, so and usually क्या होता है कि the prologue is it would begin with a benedictory. With a benedictory stanza. So in this case, there is a benedictory 10 stanza in which, like by stanza I mean like a paragraph of a poem. You know, like how when you read a poem, the poems are divided into parts, and one part is called a stanza, just in case. And what is a benedictory? A benedictory means like, you know, a request or a plea to a god. Okay, and usually, and again, what is interesting is again that there is a departure from how traditionally prologues are written. There's a difference between how traditionally Sanskrit drama prologues are written. Usually क्या होता है, so the author, when he writes a prologue, he prays to whichever god he follows. Okay, so he will pray and say, please give me the power to write a good play, and please, you know, guide me and help me. I'm requesting you to make me a good writer. Okay, however, here the author actually calls to Lord Shiva, and he doesn't say that please give me the power to write a good play. He actually says that please protect everybody, and please protect them from pain and discrimination, and please free them from any kinds of minds and body. So he's actually not praying for himself. He's actually not praying that please help me write a good play. This is usually what happens in a prologue. The author will say that, hey Bhagwan, मुझे शक्ति दो कि मैं अच्छे से एक story लिखूं. This is what. But here he's saying that, hey, dear God, dear Lord Shiva, please help me. Please make sure that everybody in this world is happy and doesn't have any pain and doesn't face discrimination. Okay, so now also moving on. Now, according to the prologue, and so in the prologue, Sudraka, like the author, he starts to talk about himself, remember? And he says that I am a Kshatriya king, and he doesn't mention which country he is, and he says that I'm brave and I'm handsome and I know the Rig Veda. So basically, the author sort of narrates how amazing he is. Okay, and this is again two things. This is again very, very different from usually a prologue is. Usually the author is very humble. He would say that I am just a servant of Lord Shiva or Lord Krishna, and I want the power to write a good play. And if I write a good play, it is because the Lord is helping me. Here, however, the author is actually very self-absorbed, and he's self-praising himself, which is not common at all in prologue. That's one thing. And second thing, and this is also done because of humor. It is done because it's funny. This is a comic element of the play, you know, of the story. Okay, and so he says that, and he talks about everything. He says that I am good looking, I am handsome, and you know, I am attractive, and he says that I am also very intelligent. I know the Rig Veda and Samveda and mathematics. So he's not only good looking, he says I'm brave and handsome, but he also says that he's intelligent because he knows all these Vedas, and then he knows I know how to train elephants, and he's a devotee of Lord Shiva, and he has performed the Ashwamedha sacrifice. The Ashwamedha sacrifice is sacrificing a horse. Okay, now again, like as I'm saying, and this is the full prologue which you have in the text. I've written it down for you. And what he is saying is that, you know, the prologue is basically all about self-praise. Like it really subverts, like, by subvert I mean it really converts the traditional, like usually the author is very humble. Okay, he would say, give me the power to write a story, as I just said, but here he is just self-praising himself. So and this is just he describing himself. The author is just describing himself. Okay, so this is supposedly Sudraka, the king, talking about himself. So he says, who vied with elephants in lordly grace, whose eyes were those of the chakura bird, that feeds on moonbeams, glorious his face, as the full moon his person all have heard. All was altogether lovely, first in worth. Among the twice born was this poet, known as Sudraka, for over all the earth, this virtue's depth unfathomed and alone. So this is very, very interesting, because here he's, again, like I told you, that he's praising how beautiful he is, and all these words like as the full moon and this and that. So all these just show that, it literally means that uski shakal ek chand ke tukde jaisi thi. Okay, that's what he's saying. And when he says that twice born, so the idea of twice born in Hinduism basically means that he belongs to the three highest castes. So as we know that he's a Kshatriya king, and Kshatriya king, to jo Brahmins, Vaishyas, or jo Brahmins, Vaishyas, or Kshatriyas jo hote hain, they are called twice born. Okay, and these are basically those who belong to the highest caste, and because he says that Shudraka is a Kshatriya king, therefore the word twice born is used. Okay, as Shudraka far all over the earth, like virtue's depth unfathomed alone. So he is handsome, he is virtuous, he is brave, he is intelligent. So sab kuch, matlab jo whatever you can think of, he is that person. Okay. And then, as I said, the Samveda, the Rig Veda too, the science, mathematical, he knew the art wherein fair courtesans excel, and all the lore of elephants as well. So he's saying that he was also very popular with the courtesans because he was very attractive. Okay. And he also knew how to control elephants, as I said. Through Shiva's grace, his eye was never dim. He saw, and what does his eye was never dim? It basically means that those people who are smart have a sparkle in their eyes. Okay. He saw his son a king in place of him. The difficult horse sacrifice he tried successfully. So the idea, as I said, the Ashwamedha sacrifice, it's a very difficult sacrifice to do, and he did it. He entered the fiery tide 100 years and 10 days old and died. So what is basically happening is the Sutradhar comes on the stage and he starts talking about how amazing the author of this play is, and he starts giving all these descriptions. And now keep this in mind that because this is a play written by the author, essentially he is praising himself. Okay, I hope that makes sense. And finally it says, eager for battle, sloth's determined foe. Sloth's determined foe means that sloth ka enemy. And why? And what is sloth? Sloth means laziness. So when he says sloth ka enemy, it just means that he is very that this king is very active. Okay, of scholars chief who to the Veda cling. What this again means is that usually jo warriors hote hain, jo fighters hote hain, wo scholars nahi hote. But ye jo Sudraka hai, he's everything. He's a warrior also. He's a scholar also. Rich in the riches that aesthetics know. So rich in the riches that aesthetics know. This is a very interesting line. Aesthetics matlab jo hote hain na, jo sab kuch त्याग देते हैं, जो योगी होते हैं. That is the term for aesthetics. And so what are the riches which aesthetics know? Because aesthetics ke paas kuch nahi hota hai. They don't have a house, they don't have anything. They live in the forest and everything. So basically what he means is that aesthetics ke paas jo wisdom hoti hai, jo gyan hoti hai, so they're very rich in knowledge, and that is what he means, like he's very rich in knowledge. Okay. Glad giants the foeman's elephants to sow. Again, there's a reference to elephants for some reason. Elephants were very important. His valor, such was the king Shudraka. Okay, so what is happening in the prologue? The Sutradhar comes and starts telling the story of the author who wrote the play. He starts explaining that Mirchakatika ne kya कहते हैं, ladies and gentlemen, Mirchakatika का जो author है वो ऐसे है. ठीक है, जो आप जो नाटक देखने वाले हैं उसको इसने लिखा है और ये ऐसे है, ये handsome है, ये strong है, ये powerful है, ये intelligent है. Now do keep this in mind that जो ये enactment हो रही है, like this thing is being acted, this prologue, this is actually in the play. तो ये ultimately लिखा भी the author नहीं है ना, तो he is self-praising himself, and this is very uncommon. This does not happen in Sanskrit drama. Okay, now continuing with the prologue. So most of the prologue actually just goes into the author sort of praising himself. And then in the end of the prologue, he mentions what the story is going to be about. So this is usually how a prologue is. It will have a little prayer in the beginning saying that, hey, God, please give me strength to write a good story. And then it will describe what the story is about. However, in this case, there's a huge description about just how good the author is anyway. And then he touches upon the story. In the end of the prologue, he says, and in this work of his, within the town Avanti named, dwells one called Charudatta, famed no less for youth than poverty, a merchant's son and Brahmin he. His virtues have the power to move Vatsasena's inmost love. So what he's really saying is that, he's saying that, then he starts just telling the story. He says that ये कहानी है चारुदत्ता की, जो एक ब्राह्मण है but वो बहुत गरीब है, and even और वो इतना virtuous है, वो इतना अच्छा है कि even जो courtesan है Vatsasena. Now look, courtesans do not have a partner, because if they get married or if they fall in love, then they will not be able to take clients, right? So he's saying that वो इतना अच्छा है कि even Vatsasena falls in love with him. Okay, fair as the springtime radiancy, as a courtesan as she, just it basically means that she is she's as beautiful as the spring. Okay, she's as radiant as the spring. So here's King Sudraka's the tale imparts of love's pure festival in two hearts, as of prudent acts, a lawsuit's gone wrong and hate, a rascal's nature and the course of fate. So here, right in the prologue, he says that the story is about two lovers. But then there are also, like when he says, of prudent acts, a lawsuit's wrong and hate, a rascal's nature and the course of fate, we are also moving towards something which which focuses on things like like there are other things happening. There's a lawsuit, there are some rascals in the play, and of course the course of fate ki jo honi mein jo hoga wo dekha jayega, which is again sort of connects with the idea of what we talked about in Mahabharata, that aapke fate mein jo hai wo hoga. Okay, now on the right side I've given you a description abhi tak kya hua hai. So the play's plot is mainly derived from history. And why am I saying history? Because of course it is set in and do not confuse this as the story, it's not, the plot is not taken from something which has happened in history. It is derived from history because it is after all in the city, like Avanti is the name of Ujjain. Okay, so it's a part of like the place is historical, like the place is real, but the story is still created. Okay, and that's why it says it's partly history, because the location of the story is a real place. However, it is partly a creation of author's fancy, because the story is created by the author. It is not something which actually happened in Ujjain, right? And we see characters from every class. So this is true. We do actually see gamblers, we see monks, we see courtesans, we see maids, we see Brahmins. So we see characters from everyday life, and this is true in everyday life, because we don't live in isolated, segregated communities where only Brahmins live together or only Kshatriyas live together, right? So this is again very representative of everyday life. Okay, now the central story is about a noble man. A noble man means a virtuous man, and he's a poor Brahmin, and he's called Charudatta, and he falls in love with a wealthy courtesan. Now this is very interesting. So the Brahmin, and how, to what do we associate? The concept of Brahmanism? Brahmins are basically people who are scholars, right? Who are priests, who know all the religious texts, and who are also scholars, right? But Charudatta is actually poor, and so in a way Charudatta represents the mind, right? Because everything to do with scholarly things, everything to it's in the mind, right? It's your mind. You can be intelligent if it's the mind. However, Vasanta Sena, she represents the body, right? Because she's ultimately a dancer and a singer, and she's also she's somebody who takes money for sex. So she represents the body, and it is very interesting that somebody who has a sharp mind is poor, and somebody who's trade, like who makes a living through her body, is wealthy. So here there's a clear hierarchy between the body sort of takes precedence over the mind, like, you know, it's a better way to make money. So and usually Brahmins are supposed to be, actually Brahmins are never wealthy, like, you know, it's always the kings who are wealthy. Brahmins can be wealthy, but here he's just a poor Brahmin, and it is the courtesan, actually, the supposedly the tavayak or the prostitute or all these names you said about her. She's the one who's wealthy because she has all these wealthy clients and she has a lot of money. And they meet each other and they fall in love. However, their love or their union is threatened by somebody called Samsthanaka. And Samsthanaka is basically jo king hai, because ye jo is playing maybe a king hai, but he's not the main character, of course. He is the king's brother-in-law. The Samsthanaka jo hai, wo king ka brother-in-law hai, and he is attracted to Vasanta Sena, but Vasanta Sena does not like him. So it's basically a love triangle. And Samsthanaka is very jealous, and so he tries to ruin this relationship. Okay. And so we will read more about this. Okay. Now the characters. You don't need to know all these characters. You do not need to memorize them. Okay. So Charudatta kaun hai? As I already said, that he's a Brahmin and he's also a very generous man. तो वो क्या करता है कि जो public welfare के लिए जो उसके जो you know unlucky friends है, suppose उसके friend के साथ कुछ बुरा हो जाता है and he would give him money. तो suppose you know public welfare के लिए money. तो because वो दूसरे लोगों की इतनी हेल्प करता है तो वो खुद ही गरीब हो जाता है, मतलब वो दूसरों की हेल्प करते करते खुद ही गरीब हो जाता है. ठीक है. एंड यू नो एंड उसके बाद क्या होता है कि he keeps helping his friends and he still keeps getting poor, and then he's also and because he's such a virtuous character, he does not want to ask for help from anybody. तो उसकी condition, उसकी जो living condition है वो day by day बुरी होती जाती है, but he doesn't ask for help from anybody because he's also a very virtuous man. He is embarrassed to do it. And however but then you know even though वो गरीब है, he has a very good reputation. He is considered an honest and upright man, and he's considered a man of intelligence, and many people come and you know take his advice. So this means that you know just because, so here a person's importance, how a person is respected, how important a person is in the society is really not defined by whether he's rich or poor, because here Charudatta is poor but still he's respected. So just because somebody is rich does not automatically mean that he would be respected. All right. So Vasanta Sena is the heroine, and I already said that you know she is a courtesan and she is extremely wealthy because she has all these rich clients. At the same time, she's also shown to be a very nice, a very good person, and how we will read about this later. The Samsthanaka, as I said, is the villain. He is and he's actually जो king जो है ना, king Palak, उसकी बहुत सारी concubines है. Concubines मतलब कि women with whom he has sex with, but they're not his wife. So it is one of these women that he has sex with, and uska ek bhai hai, Samsthanaka. So he is also called Sakara, and he's the villain of the play. Okay. Now Madanika is Vasantana's maid servant. Sarbilakha is a Brahmin who is in love with Madanika, and he steals something. And again, this is a very strange thing that a Brahmin is stealing something, because that's not how Brahmins are supposed to be. And then Maitreya again is a poor Brahmin. He is a friend of Charudatta's. Again, there and as you can see, yes, like there are multiple Brahmin characters. There are maids and so on and so forth. And there's servants. And now, here is something very curious. Look at the last 2 points. There is Duta, which is Charudatta's wife, and there is Rohasena, which is Charudatta's son. Now, this is very, very, very interesting, because remember how we keep saying, or like as I've said already, that the story is between Charudatta and Vasanta Sena's love. But here we see that uski to ek wife bhi hai aur uska ek beta bhi hai. And if he's such a noble and such a virtuous man, how is he falling in love with a courtesan when he's already married? That would be a very good question, and we will be talking about this more in the next class. So keep this in mind, that how are we calling. हाँ चलो ठीक है, he's very generous, वो public welfare के लिए बहुत कुछ करता है, वो अपने friends को पैसे देता है कि वो खुद ही गरीब हो गया, तो वो बहुत अच्छा आदमी है और बहुत respected है, बहुत लोगों से आके advice लेते हैं. But at the same time, he falls in love, even though it doesn't matter that he falls in love with the courtesan. That is not the point where we are passing a value judgment. We are passing a value judgment about the fact that he's married and he still falls in love, and somehow nobody really cares in the entire play. Like, this is not seen as a problem in the play. Okay, and this again sort of really represents the idea of just how men could, even like virtuous Brahmin men, could do whatever they want. Like, they could be married and they could still have quotations and they would still be respected. And you know, it just that idea. So just keep this idea in mind. All right. And then there are some other characters, and these are some different, and you don't have to memorize them at all. And you can see people like, you know, and at the end on the right side, it says there are citizens, there are slaves, there are attendants, then there is a gambling master, there's a Buddhist monk, there is, you know, a prince who is in exile. So there are a whole bunch of different characters. Okay, so it just shows that how diverse the people are, and from how many parts of the places they're coming in. Now, I'm going to give you a very, very quick outline of the plot. And the main thing, remember, like in the last class, I told you that how usually Sanskrit drama, they do not follow 3 unities of time, space, and action. Now, this is something which Sanskrit dramas do not do. It is very common in European dramas. But however, in this play, there is the time limit is only a few days. Like, the whole play plays out in few days. Unlike Kalidasa's play, which goes on for years and years and years. Like, right, the time span which is covered in the plays for years. So this is actually which just follow the unity. There is, of course, a very fast moving action, and the plot is also very tight. Okay, and it happens all in the city of Ujjain. Like, we don't go, like, unlike Kalidasa, where one thing is happening in the forest, the other thing is happening in the court, then one of the things is happening in the sky, in the heaven. That doesn't happen here. Everything here happens in Ujjain. It only happens between 3 to 4 days, and there is a lot of action which goes on in the play. So in a way, this play actually follows the 3 unities of time, which usually Sanskrit dramas do not follow. All right. Now, the first thing that we have here is that it is the first act we have. It's called the gems are left behind. Okay, and this is you know, the first evening. So the play starts in the evening, and after the prologue, we see the scene opens in Charudatta's house. Okay, so the first scene you see is that Charudatta is in his house, and he's with his friend Maitri, and he's just complaining about कि मैं इतना गरीब हूँ, ठीक है? And then suddenly क्या होता है कि Vatsasena सड़क, like, बाहर एक सड़क दिख रही होती है, Vatsasena just comes there, and she is being chased by the villain Sastanaka. Okay, and जो उसको बोलता है कि I love you, you know, I'm really, like, उसको बहुत, मतलब उसको पटाने की कोशिश कर रहा है वो, ठीक है, but वसंता सेना does not like him, तो उसको रिजेक्ट कर देती है. She's like, नहीं, मुझे तुम पसंद नहीं हो. And अब क्योंकि वो उसको इतना इरिटेट कर रहा है, बेसिकली उसको, मतलब ये सड़क पे हो रहा है, तो दिस इज बेसिकली ईव टीजिंग. ठीक है, ईव टीजिंग हो रही है. तो क्या होता है कि चारुदत्ता फिर चारुदत्ता का जो फ्रेंड है वो चला जाता है, लाइक मैत्री गोज, एंड देन उस बंदे से, मतलब, यू नो, सस्ता नखा जो उसको इरिटेट कर रहा है, जो उसका पीछा कर रहा है, उससे बचने के लिए वो चुपचाप चारुदत्ता के घर में घुस जाती है. ऑलराइट, एंड देन व्हाट हैपेंस इज, जो उसका जो फ्रेंड है चारुदत्ता का, मैत्री, वो जब बाहर जाता है तो उसकी और संस्थानका की एक बहस हो जाती है. ओके, and when he comes back, he recognizes that this is Vatsasena. Now what Vatsasena does is कि उसके पास एक she has a casket, like a box of gems, like, you know, of gold or whatever, and जो बोलती है कि she tells you know, Charudatta that, you know, you keep it, मैं ये तुम्हारे घर पे छोड़ के जा रही हूँ, just keep it safe, I will come back and take it. Okay, now Act 2, we move on to the next day, and this Act 2 is titled The Shampooer Who Gambled. So these are all really funny titles, and they all sort of, you know, reflect the comical nature of the play. All right, so here we are seeing what can we hang on. Yes, so second day. The act opens in Vatsasena's house, right? And the Vatsasena tells her mate that, oh, I saw Charudatta and I'm in love with him. So of course this is very funny. This is basically, you know, not funny, but this is basically very, very typical to the idea of love at first sight. So उसने Act 1 में वो चारुदत्ता से कुछ भी बात नहीं करती. They only spend like some, like, you know, वो उसके घर पे घुस जाती है, you know, to escape the villain, and then the next day we see she's saying, oh, I am in love with Charudatta. Okay, so it's basically love at first. तभी एक shampooer आ जाता है. Now what does a shampooer mean? It basically means that during that time somebody, there was a specific person who would come to your house to wash your hair. Okay, so suddenly एक shampooer, on the street you see a shampooer and he's running away from these gambling, you know, from the gambling masters who say that, who stop the shampooer and say that, you know, you owe me 10 gold coins because you lost a gambling bet. Then another gambler enters. His name is Darudatta, and he enters and and they start fighting with each other for whatever, like, you know, and उनकी बहस होनी शुरू हो जाती है. And during that time जो shampooer है वो भाग जाता है वहां से और वो वसंत सेना के घर में घुस जाता है. So basically what is happening कि लोग एक दूसरे के घर में घुसते रहते हैं, you know, like sneakily, ठीक है. Now वसंत सेना पूछती है क्या हुआ, तुम मेरे घर में क्यों घुसे? तो बोलती वसंत सेना को बता, then they talk and वसंत सेना finds out that ये जो शैम्पूअर है ये चारुदत्ता के बाद होता है. तो ये सुन के वो बोलती है चलो ठीक है, you know, मैं तुम्हारा डेथ पे कर दूंगी. तो वो सुनती है कि अच्छा तुम चारुदत्ता के शैम्पूअर हो, चलो ठीक है, मैं जो तुम्हारा जो ये कर्जा है वो मैं पे कर देती हूँ. ठीक है, तो that's what she does. And शैम्पूअर अब इतना ग्रेटफुल है कि वाओ यू आर सो नाइस, तुमने मेरा कर्जा पे कर दिया, तुम कितनी अच्छी हो. और ये तुम्हारा ये यू नो तुम्हारी ये दिलदारी देख के, तुम्हारी ये जेनरोसिटी देख के आई एम सो एनलाइटेंड. मैं इतना भावुक हो गया कि अब मैं शैम्पू का काम करूंगा ही नहीं, मैं तो मॉन्क बन जाऊंगा, मैं तो प्रीस्ट बन जाऊंगा. Okay, now here is a very absurd element. Like this is quite funny कि वो why is he doing that? Like it's just so weird that अच्छा ओ तुमने मेरा कर्जा चुका दिया, मैं तो इतना खुश हूँ कि अब तो मैं प्रीस्ट बन जाऊंगा, मैं दुनिया त्याग दूंगा, मैं प्रीस्ट बन जाऊंगा. This is the logic, and of course it's funny, it's stupid, it's ridiculous, it's a comedy play, and that's what is happening. Okay, so and then वो जब डिसाइड करता है कि अच्छा मैं जा रहा हूँ प्रीस्ट बनने, तो घर से निकलता है और तभी एक भागता एक an elephant आता है, and you know he gets attacked by the elephant. Okay, so you know the whole scene is just comedy basically. एक शैम्पूअर आता है, वो चुपचाप वसंत सेना के घर में घुस जाता है. वसंत सेना decides to pay his कर्जा. He says अब मैं प्रीस्ट बनूंगा. Suddenly वो घर से निकलता है तो एक हाथी आके उसे मार देता है. And it's all basically, as I was saying, it's farcical, it's very in your face stupid comedy, and it's not, and but then still it's entertaining at the same time. Now Act 3, what happens in Act 3? Now Act 3 mein it's called The Hole in the Wall. So we started in Act 1, which was evening, first day. Act 2, morning, second day, and then night. We have Charudatta and Maitri return from home after midnight from a concert. So ये लोग कुछ गाना वाना देखने गए थे, and understand that the concert does not mean like a rock concert. It basically means like they might have gone to see a pandit or somebody sing a song or something like that. Okay, ये दोनों घर आते हैं and they fall asleep. And Maitri के पास जो Act 1 में which Vasanta Sena, she leaves like a gem box, right? तो वो मैत्री के पास है. And तभी एक बंदा घुसता है घर में, because you know everybody goes, as you already know, in every scene somebody is sort of, you know, going inside somebody's house sneakily. यही हो रहा है. तो so there we have this character called Sarvi Lakha, and he enters the house. He enters Charudatta's house, and so he is in love with. And Sarvi Lakha is a Brahmin, okay, and he is in love with this woman called Madanika, and Madanika is actually Vasanta Sena's maid. So वो चाहता है कि he wants to free Vasanta Sena, so he wants to buy her freedom. So meaning that he would give money to Vasanta Sena and say that you free Mandika, like I'm giving you money for her, so usko chhod do, because and he wants to do this because he's in love with Madanika. So what he does is he makes a hole in the wall. तो वो एक दीवार में एक छेद बनाता है, and it is surprising that how does nobody hear it, but apparently he makes a hole in the wall, and then he steals the gem box. And then in the morning when Charudatta wakes up and sees that, oh, the box has been stolen, now his wife, and here is the thing, right, his wife is so nice that वो बोलती है अच्छा ओ वसंत सेना का जेम बॉक्स चोरी हो गया, चलो कोई बात नहीं, अब तो उसको कॉम्पेंसेट करना पड़ेगा ना, फॉर रिकॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. लाइक रिकॉन्स्टिट्यूशन मीन्स अगर कोई चीज गुम हो जाती है, चोरी हो जाती है, then you have to replace it, you have to compensate for it. So she actually gives away her pearl necklace. वो बोलते हैं कि ये लो, ये जाके उसको दे दो वसंत सेना को, बिकॉज वो चोरी हो गया है और वो हमारे पास छोड़ के गई थी अपना सामान और हमने उसका ध्यान नहीं रखा, तो ये मेरा नेकलेस तुम उसे दे दो. तो शी इज एन इनक्रेडिबली नाइस पर्सन. ओके, एंड so this is what really happens. Now in scene 4 it is titled Madanika and Sarvalika. Remember, Sarvalika is the one जो चुराता है gem का box. So अब क्या होता है कि Sarvalika, we are now on the third day. He goes to Vatsasena's house to buy Madanika's freedom. So he says that yellow gems, I have bought you, I'm giving you these jewelry and I want you to free your maid Madanika and so on. Now here's something funny, right? So he has basically stolen gems which already belong to Vatsasena, right? Because वो उसके पास छोड़ के गई थी, वो क्या कहते हैं, वो चारुदत्ता के पास छोड़ के गई थी और उसने चारुदत्ता से चुराया. तो बेसिकली वो वत्ससेना के जेम्स चुरा के वत्ससेना को ही दे रहा है, ठीक है. बट नाउ instead of Vatsasena accusing him कि तुम मेरा ही सामान चुरा के तुम मुझे दे रहे हो, she reacts in a very nice way. तो वो जानती है कि exactly हुआ क्या, but she reacts in a very nice way, and she says that, you know what, here it is, you can take it back. I will you can take it back, I will give it back to you, and here is it's fine, like I don't need it. तुम ठीक है, मुझे दे, like वो एक्सेप्ट कर लेती है, वो सब बोलती नहीं है कि मैंने कि मुझे पता है कि ये तुमने चुराया है, और वो फ्री कर देती है, वो छोड़ देती है मदनिका को, बोलती ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं, I don't need any money. मतलब she doesn't say it, but like of course उसको she is not getting anything to free Madanika, but वो बोलती है okay fine, you can go. तो when Sarvalika, अब वो जब उसके घर से निकलता है, तो he hears that he has a friend called Arakya, okay, and Arakya was a young cowherd, okay, and he was imprisoned. तो उसको जो king है, king पालक, तो उसको king ने बंदी बना के रखा था, because there was because एक भविष्यवाणी टाइप थी कि ये जो बंदा है, जो आर्यक है, वो he is destined to be the king, मतलब उसकी किस्मत में लिखा है कि he is going to be the king. तो king को जब पता चलता है कि ऐसा एक there is a cow herd जिसकी किस्मत में है कि वो king बनेगा, तो king उसको उठा के उसको imprison कर देता है, उसको जेल में डाल देता है, ठीक है. तो here in the story we find out that ये जो अर्वक है, he has escaped, तो वो भाग गया है prison से, ठीक है. And Sarvalika meets with Arvak and then they go together, and then Maitreya now comes. Now Maitreya now arrives at Vasantasena's house and बोलता है कि ये pearl necklace हमने तो आपके लिए लाए हैं, because आपका जो ज्वेलरी का डब्बा है वो चोरी हो गया है. नाउ ऑफ कोर्स उसको तो मिल गया वापस ज्वेलरी का डब्बा, हाँ. तो बट वसंता सेना क्या करती है, शी डज नॉट रिवील द ट्रूथ, शी डजंट से कि नहीं इट्स ओके, आई गॉट इट बैक, ऐसा हुआ. तो वो जानबूझ के वो पर्ल नेकलेस रख लेती है, बिकॉज उसको लगता है कि आई विल यूज दिस एज एन एक्सक्यूज टू गो विजिट चारुदत्ता, तो ले लेती है उसका वो पर्ल नेकलेस, ठीक है. नाउ इन एक्ट 5 में क्या हो रहा है, in this act we see it's titled The Storm, like तूफान. Okay, now this is the evening of the third day and चारुदत्ता अपने गार्डन में है. तभी वसंत सेना का सर्वेंट आता है, बोलता है कि वसंत सेना आ रही है. तो and the fact that कि उस वसंत सेना के आने से पहले एक सर्वेंट आके डिक्लेयर कर रहा है कि वसंत सेना प्रस्तुत हो रही हैं or something like that, which again shows that that she is not just a common prostitute, like she's a very powerful and she's a very powerful woman, like she's very wealthy. तो मतलब उसको, and she is treated in a, हो सकता है कि मन ही मन people disrespect her, they think that after all ये नाचने वाली है, गाने वाली है, ये prostitute है, but in the face, like उसके in front of her, people cannot disrespect her. All right, so Charudatta, basically she appears in the garden of his house and he receives a servant of Vatsasena, okay, and Vatsasena आके उसको बोलता है Charudatta आ रही है, and then then you know, like then she meets Chaudatta, and उसी time पे ना एक तूफान आ जाता है, ठीक है, like it's a loud, crazy, you know, loud, it's a crazy storm, और इतनी बुरी तरह से तूफान आता है, इतनी बुरी तरह से तूफान आता है कि now बेचारी Vatsasena, she cannot go back home, तो उसको she has to spend the night at Chaudatta's house. Okay. And by the way, when Vasantasena comes, she explains कि नहीं, मुझे gem casket मिल गया था और मैं बस आपका ये pearl necklace वापस करने आई हूँ, whatever. ठीक है, तो and then तूफान आ जाता है, and then she's like, अच्छा अब तो मुझे रहना ही पड़ेगा. Now the idea here is very interesting. Like remember in Mahabharata we talked about how जब पांडवास को उन्होंने like when they were asked to when they were made to be exiled into the, you know, when they were exiled to the forest, we saw a lot of natural calamity happening. We saw कि Chandragrahan हो गया, Suryagrahan हो गया. We saw that there was a storm, there was thunder, and how did we interpret it? We interpreted it as saying that when something bad happens in the human world, the nature also reacts. So the idea was that nature was also very angry that Pandavas ko वन में भेजा जा रहा है, so therefore we saw storms and tsunami or whatever, you know, and not tsunami, storms and thunderstorms and Suryagrahan and so on. Now in this case, the idea could be that even nature जो है, they want you know, Vatsasena and Chaudatta to spend time together. तो इसलिए जानबूझ के the nature gets very angry and एक तूफान आ जाता है जिससे कि Chaudatta and Vatsasena are forced to spend time together in the same house. Now do keep this in mind कि उसी घर में उनका बच्चा और उनकी wife भी रहती है, but apparently that is simply not a problem in this play, and that tells you a lot about how disrespectful men can be towards their wives and how they have no respect for the concept of marriage. Right now, in Act 6, क्या होता है कि it's called the swapping of the bullet cards. Okay, now this is the morning of the fourth day, and this is the scene where Chaudatta, you know, where we see Chaudatta's son Rohasena playing with a toy card, and and what is happening is that the boy is upset that, you know, he doesn't have that he doesn't have toys, that he doesn't have a gold toy card, because उसके friend के पास एक gold toy card है, पर उसके पास नहीं है क्योंकि वो गरीब है, तो उसके पास एक clay का toy card है. तो क्या होता है कि तो she feels very bad and so she gives him money, तो वो अपने gems दे देती है उसको, बोलती है कि you know, here it is, you can now buy a toy card of gold, right? उसी टाइम पे क्या होता है कि चारुदत्ता का जो सर्वेंट है, he arrives to take you know, to take Vasantasena to the park. Charudatta is waiting for her in the park. So Vasantasena, so Charudatta का जो driver है, he comes and he says that you know कि आइए मैं आपको पार्क में लेके जाऊंगा, ठीक है. बट क्या होता है कि जब वसंतसेना बोलती है ठीक है मैं रेडी होके आती हूँ, तब जो चारुदत्ता का जो बुलेट का जो ड्राइवर है वो चला जाता है, क्योंकि he goes to find a cushion, ठीक है, वो मतलब कार्ट में उसके बैठने के लिए कुशन ढूंढने चला जाता है. तभी क्या होता है कि जो संस्थानका है, रिमेम्बर संस्थानका is the villain, तो तभी क्या होता है कि संस्थानका का जो बुलेट कार्ट है वो आ जाता है वहां पे, ठीक है, उसका ड्राइवर आ जाता है, एंड ही ड्राइव्स अप हिज एंड क्या होता है कि गलती से वसंतसेना सोचती है कि ये चारुदत्ता का कार्ट है, बट एक्चुअली चारुदत्ता का ड्राइवर चला गया कुशन ढूंढने के लिए, और तभी वसंतसेना का ड्राइवर वहां पे तभी वहां पे संस्थानका का ड्राइवर वहां पे आ जाता है, तो वो उसकी गाड़ी में घुस जाती है ये सोच के कि ये चारुदत्ता की गाड़ी है, ठीक है. उसके बाद ही जो चारुदत्ता का सर्वेंट है वो वापस आता है कुशन लेके, और तब तक क्या होता है कि वसंतसेना तो ऑलरेडी चली गई दूसरे कार्ट में, एंड इसमें कौन घुसता है, इसमें remember a few slides ago I told you that there is अरक जिसको किंग ने बंदी बना रखा था और जो भाग गया था, तो ये घुस जाता है चारुदत्ता के कार्ट में छुपने के लिए, ठीक है. तभी क्या होता है कि 2 पुलिसमैन आ जाते हैं जो अरक को ढूंढ रहे होते हैं, एंड दे सर्च द कार्ट एंड देन दे डिस्कवर अरक. तो उसमें से एक होता है जो डिसाइड करता है कि चलो ठीक है, आई विल प्रोटेक्ट यू, आई विल सेव यू, तो वो उसको प्रोटेक्ट कर देता है, लाइक वो अल्टीमेटली पकड़ा नहीं जाता, ठीक है। नाउ in Act 7, Act 7 is now the 4th day, and Charudatta is now waiting Charudatta is now waiting for Vatsasena in the park, right? And but उसकी जो कार्ट में लाइक उसने अपना गाड़ी भेजा, बुलेट कार्ट भेजा चारुदत्ता को पिक करने के लिए, राइट? ये पहले एक्ट में हुआ। चारुदत्ता उसमें ना बैठ के गलती से विलन के कार्ड में घुस जाती है, ठीक है। और चारुदत्ता के कार्ड में सॉरी वसंत सेना उसके ना ही को okay, I will say it again. Charudatta has sent his card or his cart, let's use the word gadi, to pick up Vasanta Sena, right? Vasanta Sena accidentally enters the wrong gadi, and this gadi belongs to the villain. And she accidentally enters the wrong गाड़ी because चारुदत्ता की गाड़ी, तब चारुदत्ता का ड्राइवर है वो कहीं और चला जाता है क्वेश्चन ढूंढने के लिए। तो वसंत सेना बेसिकली विलन की गाड़ी में है, उसको पता नहीं है। और चारुदत्ता की गाड़ी में बेसिकली आर्यक है जो भागा हुआ है प्रिंस के किंग के प्रिजन से, ठीक है। अब क्या होता है कि चारुदत्ता डिस्कवर, अब जब वो व्हेन द कार्ट अराइव्स इन द पार्क, चारुदत्ता डिस्कवर्स कि इसमें वसंत सेना तो है नहीं, इसमें तो आर्यक है। तो बट वसंत सेना बट चारुदत्ता बीइंग अ गुड पर्सन, वो उसको बोलता नहीं कि अरे तुम तो भागे हुए हो, तुम तो बुरे हुए हो। तो वो बोलता ठीक है तुम भाग जाओ, तुम मेरी गाड़ी ले लो और भाग जाओ। तो वो भाग जाता है, ठीक है। दिस इज व्हाट हैपेंस इन सीन 7। Now, Act 7. Now Act 8 में क्या होता है? It's called the strangling of Vasanta Sena. तो अभी एक मॉन्क आता है, एंड दिस मॉन्क इज द शैम्पूअर। जो याद है जो शैम्पूअर जो था, जो पहले जिसको जो पहले वो इतना खुश हो गया था कि वसंत सेना इतनी अच्छी है, तो वो फिर मॉन्क बन गया, एंड फिर उसको हाथी ने मार दिया था, बट अपेरेंटली वो मरा नहीं। तो अभी जो ये है, तो ये जो शैम्पूअर है वो पार्क में आ जाता है, ठीक है। एंड उस टाइम पे संस्थानका का जो ड्राइवर है वो the servant drives in with the cart, and जिसमें वसंत सेना गलती से है। एंड बिकॉज ये संस्थानका का कार्ड है, तो उसमें संस्थानका उसे डिस्कवर कर लेता है, मतलब अरे तुम यहाँ पे कैसे। एंड ही इज ऑफ कोर्स वेरी हैप्पी कि ये गलती से उसकी गाड़ी में घुस गई, और वो दोबारा उसके पीछे पड़ जाता है कि आई लव यू, मुझे तुमसे ये है। एंड वो दोबारा उसे रिजेक्ट कर देती है, बोलता है कि नहीं, तुम मुझे पसंद नहीं। तो अब क्या होता है कि वो इतना गुस्सा हो जाता है कि उसने मुझे कैसे रिजेक्ट किया। तो वो ही ट्राइज टू, उसके आसपास के जितने लोग होते हैं उसे भगा देता है, बोलता है जाओ, जिससे कि कोई विटनेस ना हो कि वो आगे क्या करने वाला है, कोई ये ना देख पाए। सबको भगा देता है, एंड देन वो उसका गला घोट देता है और उसे छोड़ देता है वहां पे, ठीक है। एंड तभी जो ये बुद्धिस्ट मॉन्क है जो पहले शैम्पूअर था, तो ये घुसता है, देखता है कि वसंत सेना ऐसे पड़ी हुई है नीचे। तो वो उसको जगाता है, उसे उठाता है, एंड he takes her to the monastery because monks monastery में रहता है, तो उसको लेके वहां चला जाता है, ठीक है। Now Act 9 में ट्रायल हो रहा है, ठीक है। तो this is the now we are on the 5th day. तो here संस्थानका क्या करता है? संस्थानका apparently उसको लगता है कि उसने मार डाला वसंत सेना को, और वो क्या करता है कि वो झूठ का बोल देता है कि चारुदत्ता ने मारा है वसंत सेना को उसके पैसे के लिए। Because remember, Charadatta is very poor and Vasanta Sena is very rich. Okay, so in the course जब ट्रायल हो रही है, जब कोर्ट चल रहा है, तो वहाँ पे वहाँ पे it is said that वसंत सेना, तो वो बोलता है कि वसंत सेना रात को चारुदत्ता के घर में थी, उसके बाद वो अगले दिन घर से निकली चारुदत्ता से मिलने के लिए, और फिर पार्क में कुछ झगड़ा हुआ, और उसके बाद and apparently there was a murder of a woman. Okay. एंड तभी चारुदत्ता का जो फ्रेंड है वो एंड चारुदत्ता का जो फ्रेंड है वो तभी सीन में घुस जाता है, एंड वंस अगेन ही हैज दैट जेम बॉक्स, एंड ये जो चारुदत्ता का जो जेम कैस्केट है, एंड ये जो जेम कैस्केट है, याद है, दिस वाज लेफ्ट बाय वसंत सेना टू चारुदत्ता सन। उसने वसंत सेना ने अपना जो ज्वेलरी था वो शी हैड given it to Charadatta to buy a toy cart of gold. So when when they see that अच्छा ये gem यहाँ पे कैसा, so this sort of makes it even more obvious, like, and this makes it actually not obvious, so they assume that इनके घर में वसंत सेना का ये ज्वेलरी बॉक्स है, ये रात को चारुदत्ता के घर में थी, उसके बाद अगले दिन सुबह चारुदत्ता से मिलने जा रही थी, तो इट इज वेरी लाइकली कि चारुदत्ता ने ही उसे मारा होगा. Okay, so in this and because चारुदत्ता गरीब है और because वसंत सेना का जो ज्वेलरी है वो उसके घर से मिली, तो they automatically assume that यही उसके पैसे की वजह से उसके जेम्स की वजह से चारुदत्ता ने उसका खून किया, right? Now this is the final scene and it's called the end, and this is the 6th day. So as you can see, the entire scene, the entire play takes place in just 6 days. So it's a very tight. The timeline is very short. Okay. So in this play, in the final scene, what happens is the 6th day. तो अब क्या हो रहा है कि अब एग्जीक्यूशन होगा, मतलब चारुदत्ता को एक्यूज कर दिया मर्डर के लिए, तो उसको अभी एग्जीक्यूट करेंगे, मतलब उसको मारेंगे, लाइक उसको डेथ पेनल्टी मिली है. ठीक है, तो वो अपने बेटे को गुड बाय बोलता है, वो अपने फ्रेंड को गुड बाय बोलता है, एंड फॉर सम रीजन देयर इज जस्ट नो रेफरेंस टू हिज वाइफ. उसकी वाइफ कहाँ है, क्या है, कुछ नहीं. एंड देन संस्थानका, बट क्या होता है कि संस्थानका जो विलन है, उसका जो नौकर है वो भाग जाता है. ठीक है, लाइक बिकॉज संस्थानका ना उसको ट्रैप करके रखता है कि बोलता है कि नहीं तुम, बिकॉज ही नोज दैट इसके सर्वेंट को सच्चाई पता है, but the servant escapes and he tells the truth that ये एक्चुअली सच बात नहीं है, ये संस्थानका ने मारा है उसे ऐसे ऐसे, बट nobody believes him, उसका कोई यकीन नहीं करता. ठीक है, तो however, तो अभी चारुदत्ता को मतलब उसको फांसी चढ़ाने की, उसको एग्जीक्यूट करने की प्रिपरेशन जारी है. और तभी क्या होता है कि वसंत सेना तब खुद ही आ जाती है, बिकॉज ऑफ कोर्स वसंत सेना इज नॉट डेड, राइट. तो रिमेंबर इन द सीन इन द पार्क हाउ इट एंड्स, तो वो जो मॉन्क है उसके साथ चली जाती है मोनेस्ट्री में, तो वो एक्चुअली मरी नहीं है, तो वो तब आ जाती है. एंड ऑफ कोर्स नाउ कि बिकॉज वो मरी नहीं है, तो होल कॉन्सेप्ट दैट मीन्स दैट चारुदत्ता ने उसे नहीं मारा, राइट. तो ऑफ कोर्स उसका एग्जीक्यूशन नहीं होता. एंड देन वी आर आल्सो टोल्ड दैट अरक जो भागा था प्रिंस के जो भागा था किंग के प्रिजन से, और जो चारुदत्ता के कार्ट में था, चारुदत्ता ने उसे अपना कार्ट दे दिया था भागने के लिए. तो बाय दिस टाइम वी फाइंड आउट दैट अरक ने जो किंग है, जो करंट किंग है, किंग पलक, उसको मार डाला है, एंड नाउ ही इज बिकम द किंग. ओके, एंड बिकॉज चारुदत्ता ने उसकी हेल्प करी थी उसे भागने के लिए, तो ही हैज द रॉयल पावर, बिकॉज ही हैज द किंग. तो वो चारुदत्ता को छोड़ देता है, बोलता है कि ऑफ कोर्स अब तो उसको मारने का तो कोई पॉइंट है ही नहीं. एंड अनदर थिंग, बिकॉज उसको पता है कि चारुदत्ता ने उसकी सहायता करी थी, उसको अपना कार्ड दे दिया था भागने के लिए, तो ही आल्सो वांट्स टू रिवॉर्ड चारुदत्ता. तो एंड बिकॉज ही हैज द रॉयल पावर, वो बोलता है कि वसंत सेना को अब से तवायक का काम, अब से कोटेशन का काम, अब से whatever the wife could come, she does not have to do, like she doesn't need to be, so he has the royal power now, he's the king, so he said that she does not need to do anything like this, उसको इसकी जरूरत नहीं है कोटेशन होने की. ठीक है, and then when संस्थानका, because now we know that संस्थानका ने उसको वसंत सेना को मारने की कोशिश करी थी. आरक्ष्या बोलता है कि तुम डिसाइड करो चारुदत्ता, तुम क्या चाहते हो कि संस्थानका के साथ क्या होगा, बिकॉज उसने तुम्हें फंसाने की कोशिश करी है, और उसको तो मतलब तुम मर जाते अगर वसंत सेना ना आती. बट चारुदत्ता इतना अच्छा आदमी है कि वो संस्थानका को पनिश नहीं करता है. ठीक है, सो this is the story, and now I will give you a very quick overview of it. So Mirchakatika is basically, so it's not a very narrow story. We are exploring different types of, we're exploring a fuller, a deeper, and a wider life. Okay, and it shows all the real aspects, like it shows social aspects of how basically real life is. Okay, and that is again the idea of a prakarna play, which represents the various stratas of the society. Okay, now what are the main characteristics of the play? The plot is very fast moving. As you see, a lot of things happen, and they all happen within the time period of 7 days. Okay, and then there is a variety of incidents and characters, and there are a lot of different types of characters, a lot of and the characters are also very very sharp, very interesting. And there is an unlike जैसे कि if you have read शकुंतला, वहाँ पे बहुत मतलब elaborate language है, बहुत decorative type का language है. यहाँ पे the language is very direct. I mean, of course, there are a lot of metaphors in the play, and there are, as one of you pointed out in the beginning of the class, and there is there is a sense of poetic license in the play, and these ideas are important, but like, of course, poetic license here, but it's not overly done. Like her sentence may, it's not like that. So it's a very direct, very simple place, a type of written place. It uses a variety of Sanskrit and Prakrit meters. Meters are basically not like 1 meter or 1 kilometer like that. Meters are basically a way of measuring the rhyming scheme in a stanza, in a verse. Because even though this is a play, remember the whole thing is in verses, like, so it's all rhyming. Okay. The dialogues are very clever. It's a funny play, and the master treatment. So a very good treatment of the idea of pathos. Now, what is pathos? Pathos means suffering. Okay, suffering, experience, or emotion. Okay, so here in this case, the idea of pathos, suffering, is basically in the character of who? In the character of Charudatta, because Charudatta, we see, is someone who is suffering from poverty. Like, वो बहुत generous है, बहुत अच्छा है, but वो poverty से suffer कर रहा है. And then there's also the suffering of he being accused of the murder of the person but the person he loves, and so there is a lot of suffering, and that's a treatment of pathos. Now the ending is a happy one, which is important, because you have to keep this in mind, that the plays, that, as I said, that usually in Sanskrit drama, in fact, not usually, almost always in Sanskrit drama, we do not have a tragic ending. Tragic ending basically means जहाँ पे hero की death हो जाती है. So we usually have a happy ending, जहाँ पे union होता है, because that's just how Indian drama works. We don't have tragedies. So here, and remember, I taught you about in the last class, I taught you that there are 5 stages in Sanskrit drama. First stage, we are introduced what the story is going to be. The second stage is the story is developed. The third stage is good things that are happening in the story, which pushes towards the aim of the story. The fourth thing are then the good things are countered by the bad things in the story, and the bad things stop you from reaching the aim of the story. Okay, and then finally, fifth is when we reach nirvana, as in the final conclusion of the story. So here, of course, if you try to put this in this format, क्या हो रहा है कि Vasanta Sena and Charudatta meet for the first time, so that's where the romance starts. Then she trying to meet him again, like by going to deliver the pearl necklace, is the progression of the story, and then they spending the night together is further progression of union of their love. But then all that confusion with the horse cart happens. She goes into the wrong horse cart. Then Vasanta Sena comes and tries to kill her. So that becomes the bad things which are happening, which are hindering the union of the couple, which is the aim of the story. And then finally, in the end, we all come to the conclusion. And in fact, it is very important that Arak, जो नया king बन गया है Arak, वो बोलता है कि अब वत्ससेना को quotation का काम नहीं करना पड़ेगा, because the idea is that if Vatsasena and what's the name, Charudatta are supposed to be a couple. Then Vatsasena obviously cannot be with other men. Like, she cannot be a quotation, because quotation are with multiple men. So here you see again you see the hypocrisy, right? You realize how hypocrite it is, because agar Vatsasena and Charudatta are to be united as a couple, then it is she who has to stop being a quotation, because as a woman, and if she's in a relationship, she cannot have multiple partners. But nobody has a problem. Nobody has a problem with the fact that that Charudatta जो है उसकी already एक wife है, उसका बच्चा भी है. But it's fine. अगर Charudatta की multiple बीवियां हैं और उसके multiple relations, that's okay. But Vasanta Sena अगर कभी relationship में जाती है, तो उसको अपना quotation का काम छोड़ना पड़ेगा, because she can only have one partner. So you see the hypocrisy that women can have only one, but men can have multiple, right? Now, and the plot, of course, and the characters are not very conventional. By conventional, I mean that usually क्या होता है कि जो prostitutes और जो quotations हैं, उनको like, you know, they're not projected in a good light. Vasanta Sena is actually a nice person, you know, and we see that example in two cases. Firstly, jab you know, jab what was the name of the jab Shavalika aake, remember the Brahmin who steals her jewels, so जब शावलिका आके अपने उसके ही ज्वेलरी उसको बोलता है, उसको देता है अपनी अपनी मानविका का फ्रीडम मांगने के लिए, वसंत सेना को पता है कि उसने ये जेम्स चुरा के वो उसी को दे रहा है, बट वो कुछ बोलती नहीं है और वो मानविका को फ्री कर देती है, ठीक है. एंड द सेकंड सीन इज दैट व्हेन यू नो वो देखती है कि चारुदत्ता का बेटा टॉय कार्ड के साथ खेल रहा है, क्ले कार्ड के साथ, वो अपनी जेम्स दे देती है, बोलती है कि ठीक है, यू कैन टेक दिस एंड यू कैन बाय अ गोल्ड कार्ड. सो शी इज अ very nice person, okay, and so this shows that she's not a conventional prostitute jo paise ke piche bhag rahi hai. Yes, she is wealthy, but she's also very kind hearted. It's not all about the money, you know. And finally, you know, all these devices jo ye alag alag characteristics hain play ke, jo maine aapko point out kare, all of these, you know, it's a simple, it's a pretty simple straightforward love story, but it also depicts multiple things, like how, you know, people's virtues, like how they are, is not defined by their job, or it's not defined by their caste. It's defined by just how they behave, okay? And so there's a love story, but you also get a bigger picture, because have you noticed that, you know, काफी अलग अलग बहुत सारी चीजें हो रही हैं, हाँ? So the whole thing about the Buddhist monk, and ये भी बहुत एक important factor है इस कहानी में, कि अगर आप खुद किसी के लिए अच्छा करोगे तो it will come back to you. So for example, जैसे कि चारुदत्ता help करता है अरक को भागने में, and that comes back to him. So when Arak becomes king, he frees Charudatta, and he also says that, okay, you know, अब वसंत सेना को अब क्या कहते हैं, पोजीशन का काम नहीं करना पड़ेगा. सिमिलरली वो जब पहले जो शैम्पुअर का जो कर्जा पे कर देती है, तो वो एंड की तरफ आके वही, जब वो by that time he has become a monk, वो आके वसंत सेना को बचाता है जब उसका वो गला घोट देता है ना. तो it basically means that it's the whole idea of कर भला तो हो भला, basically, हाँ. And लव स्टोरी है, एक एंशियंट इंडिया में कैसी लाइफ होती है वो प्रोजेक्टेड किया गया है, and the idea of, you know, goodwill and good karma is very important. Now the last two slides are about the title of the play, but so I will take some time to explain it, so I will do it tomorrow. And tomorrow we will also we will touch upon the idea that how is it normal, how is this considered so normal that Charudatta ki ek wife hai, bachcha hai, and still it is seen that, okay, it's perfectly fine for him to have a quotation. All right, people, so this is where I am going to end the class today. You can I'm going to look at some of the comments. सारे मैं नहीं देखने वाली हूँ, because it's not possible. अभी के लिए बहुत सारे comments हैं, I will look through some of them, and if you want to leave, that's fine. If अगर आपको सब कुछ clear है, तो you can go, and if you want me to, you know, see me go through some of the comments, then you can do that. It's completely up to you, okay? So for now, if you're leaving, have a good day, and take care. So I'm just now going to read some of the comments. What is the meaning of the word paradox? Nitish Kumar is asking. Paradox मतलब एक contradiction, ठीक है? Like something which is contradictory, okay? Quotations were respected in earlier times, and they also had a community like other castes. Yes, that is true. Even quotations now, well, not anymore, but like, you know, even now, like many of the prostitutes do live in their own community, but that is also because they're not socially accepted anywhere else. Okay, so good point, Priya. I will publish your comment. Ma'am, what is the meaning of the word paradox? I just said that it just means contradiction. Who was the author of Sudraka? Sudraka is not the name of the play. Sudraka is the name of the author, or supposedly that's the pen name of the author. Ma'am, do we need to be familiar with the Vedic sacrifice to appreciate the play? No. So quotations are multi-talented persons. Absolutely, yes, they are, Muskan. Thanks for that question. It is not a heroic play. It is not a romantic play either. It is actually a prakarna play. A prakarna play basically shows the workings of the everyday life, like आपकी daily life कैसी है. So it's based on something like that. And yes, but the main theme of the play is romantic, but it's not entirely a romantic play. So there are other things also happening in the play. That's the question from Nidhi. Thanks. Ma'am, can you send the front cover of the Kalidasa and the Mahabharata so you can purchase them? I actually do not have the book with me, but let me try and find out. हाँ, तो मैं थोड़ा ढूंढती हूँ कि कहाँ पे है. But I will send you the one for Mahabharata. Kalidasa, you should ask Shreya, because I don't have the books with me and I'm not in my home right now. ठीक है? But I will send you the one. I'll send you the Mahabharata one. What is the prologue? I think Anarkali was also like that. Yes, Anarkali was also like that. Very good. The little Sekar is another name given to Mirchakatika. Yes, the Mirchakatika, that's the English translation of the word. Every quotation is a prostitute? Usually, yes. Ma'am, do people in older times used to call peoples with their given name to insult them? Maybe. I mean, I don't understand your question completely, Shivangi, but it could be possible. And Vasanta Sena is our actual original name. If prostitutes is from lower caste, how the king noblemen from higher caste maintain sexual relationship with them even if they have so that's the hypocrisy, right? Like that's the biggest hypocrisy, like the whole idea of like acha, the whole idea of untouchability, that kisi lower caste ka saya bhi apne khane pe padne nahi denge, kisi ka uske usko touch nahi karenge and everything, but at the same time they have no problem sleeping with a lower caste woman, which is the most intimate thing anybody can do. So this is an absolute hypocrisy. So that's a good question, Arshit. No work is big and small, and we should respect it. And if we can't, so our state of mind should be changed. Very good, Simran. She can be a servant too, and it's all about the money. So usko nahi banna servant. And prostitutes and a courtesan makes way more money than a servant. If she has the talent, why not? If she wants money and she does not want to, and servants are not respected. Servants are at least like a courtesan is relatively more respected. And again, yogata, like it's up to her. Like if she wants to be a prostitute, she can be a prostitute. Like in many countries, prostitution is legal. There's nothing wrong with it. Like they actually have human rights, and and just because something is illegal doesn't mean it doesn't happen. So in fact, if you make something legal, it's more easier to regulate it and to control it. Right now, the prostitution is still in India, and there's huge human rights violations against them. So keep that value judgment out of your voice. Like a lot of women are prostitutes not because they want to, it's just because that they have to. And being a servant is like being somebody's, it's some, and prostitution brings more money. It's as simple. So it's very easy to sit there as a student and make these comments when you don't know what life is about. So saying that you should be a bit more careful and not speak like that in your exams. Like courtesan can be called who is an entertainer for high caste people and also ready to have sexual relationships with them. Yes. Don't judge a book by its cover, Neha is saying. Yes, exactly. No, Prakarna play is not a heroic play. Prakarna play is different from a heroic play. And the name Mirchakatika is not a combination of the name of the hero and the heroine. Mirchakatika means the little clay cart. Okay, Harsh? They are kind of forced to do prostitution by means of survival, yes. Prologue is basically an introduction to a particular play, yes. This is a good point, that you should judge a person by their personality and not by which caste he's born and what profession he's doing. This is Simi's comment, which I'm going to publish. Prologue can be, ma'am, can we say that prologue to an opening of a play or story too? Yes, a prologue can also be a part of a novel, can be a part of a story. It's not just specific to plays. Is prologue like a summary? No, a prologue is not a summary. Sometimes it can be, but not always. The name of the book is Mirchakatika, okay? Yes, he is using rasa. He's using the one, the comic one. I'm forgetting what that one is called, but he's using the comic ras. The author was praying for others because he wants them to wish. He wants to make his wish to be fulfilled very easily. He claims to discourage the class discrimination, but the story is about a Brahmin, and the author refers to himself as twice born. Isn't this quite ironic? Yes, it is absolutely ironic. तो वो दिखाता है कि वो common लोग के लिए लिख रहा है, but ultimately जो common लोग के बारे में लिख भी रहा है, that is about Brahmins, and at the same time he himself calls him twice born. So that's very good comment, very well observed. Tapas, publishing your comment. So the thing is that the courtesans also have emotions like other people, but their situation is not like normal like others. Okay, never mind. Does each character in the play represent a specific god and his interactions? No. No, so the prologue he added, Priya has asked a very relevant question. She's saying, if Sudraka completed Bhasa's play, then prologue might have been written by Bhasa. Is it? No, the prologue was written by Sudraka because, of course, he, like, as you can see, that he is talking about himself in the prologue. So the logical conclusion would be that the prologue was not the first 4 acts are written by Bhasa, but the prologue is an addition, which the new playwright, the one who completed the actual story, wrote. Okay, so I hope that is clear. Is there an irony in the sentence, fair as the springtime's radiancy and yet a quotation? See, she is. Yeah, because the idea is that fair, as in like not gora wala fair. Fair basically means that somebody who has good etiquette, like somebody who is chaste. Chaste matlab ki somebody who is loyal to one man or something like that. That's how women. So the idea here is basically that it's like showing that, you know, even courtesans can be fair, like even courtesan, like what we think a good woman is, even a courtesan can also be like that. Okay, so Lakshita, thank you. Sonam is saying, if Charadatta is poor, how can he afford a servant? Very good question. Even I think that if he's so poor and he's always complaining about him being so poor, how does he have a servant? Even I don't know this. So Ananya is saying, ma'am, that we know that at that time Brahmins are always poor and their wealth is wisdom. And then why it is being stressed here that he's poor as their own choice of living, which makes them taking Piksha. So here I don't know, but in this situation the Brahmins are not really taking Piksha, and that's the thing. Like Charadatta does not take Piksha. He doesn't like to do it. So that's why, and he still is poor and doesn't take Piksha. So he's in a very bad condition. Okay, so that's the thing, and why he's poor, he himself keeps saying that I'm so poor, I'm so poor, I'm so poor. So that's the thing. Okay, so good question. Publishing. Ma'am, even if Charadatta was a loyal and generous man, but he still was not with his wife, isn't it unfair with his wife? Absolutely, it is incredibly unfair with his wife, and it is funny that that this play is written and nobody thinks that, and it's not written in a way where it is at all critical of Charadatta. It is seen as something which is very normal, and we will talk about this at length tomorrow, or whenever the next class is, like, you know, and we will talk about this. Don't worry. Publish. Good question. Sudraka immortaled himself? No, well, if he was immortal, he would not have died at 110 years. It just means that he had a very long life until 110 years. Arakya kills the king for revenge for imprisoning him. This could be bald as a self-fulfilling prophecy. Very good point, Tapas. Ma'am, if Vatsasena was already in Charadatta's house, why did Charadatta send a cart to pick up Vatsasena? Because Charadatta was himself in the park, तो वो अपने घर से उसको park में लाने के लिए उसने गाड़ी भेजी थी. Ma'am, how did we know that she was there? No, we do not know. It was just assumed that वो मर गई है. That's it. Like, we don't know. And उसकी body भी कहीं भी नहीं थी, but फिर भी people just assume that उसको मार दिया है. Ma'am, if they become a couple, then what happens to his wife and son? Nothing. So he will have two wives. Ma'am, we have a group. Ma'am, can we say Vatsasena was a kind-hearted woman who helps everybody? Yes, you can say that. Ma'am, can you explain more about Samstanaka? Samstanaka is a villain. Okay, he is basically the king's, technically like a king's brother-in-law type, and जो main king है, जिसको Arak जिसको मार डालता है end में, and and he is just a very creepy, lecherous, chichora type का बंदा जो Vatsasana के पीछे पड़ा हुआ है basically. Has feelings for. Can we call prose a stanza? No, a prose. A prose is like multiple sentences written in a paragraph. A stanza is something which is poetry. Poetry का जो हिस्सा होता है उसे stanza बोलते हैं. और written चीजें जो paragraph होता है, एक prose का written paragraph होता है, उसे हम paragraph बोलते हैं. Hypocrisy means कि आप बोलते कुछ और हो, करते कुछ और हो. Okay, it's like that. Is really Chardatta, ma'am. What is the third aspect of European drama? Space, time, and action. Priya, okay. You don't have any task. कुछ करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है आपको. Is Chardatta really a great king? Chardatta is not a king. He's a Brahmin. What is the difference between a courtesan and a prostitute? A prostitute is basically somebody who sells her body for money, who has sex for money. While a courtesan is somebody who's also trained in singing and dancing, entertaining. She has a lot of etiquettes, but she also, has sex for money. But then she also knows all these other things. Okay. So, ma'am, can we say that there is gender discrimination? Also, as you said, that men can have multiple relations, but women cannot. It highlights gender discrimination. Yes, absolutely. Okay, people, I am going to go now. I'm sorry, I cannot read any more comments. I hope that is okay. I've already gone nearly about 15 minutes over class. Yeah, Rahul also made some good comments about the play, how men can have multiple relationships, but women cannot. So also publishing that. I hope you all are. Ma'am, is the writer contrasting between the facts that we know about, as Chardatta was in upper class and yet he was poor? Well, in a way, yes, but usually Brahmins are not the ones who are very wealthy. Like it is usually, the Kshatriyas who are very wealthy. Okay, so yes, you can say that. Like it's still a valid question, Divya. Okay, I'm going to go now. Thank you all very much for coming, and I really appreciated all your time and everything. Thank you for sticking around. We will do the next class. I think it's on the 19th, and then we have 2 more classes. So we'll finish this, and then I will do the top 2 background readings. Okay, bye. Good luck. Have a good day. Have a good weekend.